Hi folks, this is Celia Hamilton from the SocialBiz User Group. Our theme this month on the site focuses on IBM SmartCloud, and we have a couple of webcasts lined up for you on that IBM SmartCloud topic. The first is August 6th, and it's called IBM SmartCloud Notes, Exploring Your Configuration, Deployment, and Administration Options. Christopher Baker from IBM will explore configuration options and deployment scenarios for IBM SmartCloud Notes, as well as show you the tools available to your IT organization for SmartCloud. Then on August 27th, we have our ICS Community Webcast, hosted as usual by Joyce Davis. Joyce's webcast features a presentation by Dave Durazano called Driving Rapid Innovation and Accelerating Time to Value for Your Business with IBM SmartCloud. Dave will discuss how to use IBM SmartCloud to get your company on the path to becoming a social business. Also on that August 27th webcast, the Community Spotlight is on IBM champion Daniel Lieber. And by no coincidence, Dan is with me here today to talk about IBM SmartCloud. Daniel is president of Innovative Ideas Unlimited Incorporated and is one of the first certified practitioners of IBM SmartCloud. Daniel, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me. Greatly appreciate it.
We hear a lot about cloud from an administrator perspective, talking about infrastructure, setup, security. But what about developers? What should a developer know before his or her company moves to the cloud?
Great question. Developers and administrators and even users need to be aware of a variety of different topics, whether they're moving to the IBM SmartCloud for Social Business, any of the other IBM SmartCloud products, or even other products. For developers itself, it really comes down to where is the data, how is the data accessed, what are the different access methods, and if they're living in the Notes and Domino world, they also have to be aware of what are the implications to their applications. If they're moving over and using something like SmartCloud Notes, there are effects on the directory and naming and how different pieces are actually going to work, especially when it comes to mail-in databases and databases that have to interact with the user configurations that do change. In addition, most of the cloud services actually have very RESTful-oriented integration, and so a lot of the integration components are actually done through web services and REST services. So people have to know what the APIs are and understand the various pieces. Finally, they need to be aware of the various upgrade timings and have very good communication with the administrators who usually receive the notifications of various upgrades and downtimes so that they are able to determine the impacts of any changes that are made to the various systems.
And you just mentioned SmartCloud Notes. That's part of the IBM SmartCloud offering. What's your impression of SmartCloud Notes, and what do people need to know before they move their Notes install to the cloud?
SmartCloud Notes is a really interesting product. It is the short version. It's a version of Domino that customers can work with that is hosted by IBM, and it's designed predominantly for mail, and it integrates in with the SmartCloud Engage offerings, which is the collaboration pieces. SmartCloud Notes, if a customer is going to move, the customer needs to understand the changes that are going to happen to their directory, to their control, and they need to understand the different configuration options. In particular, there is the ability to do a hybrid implementation or a pure hosted implementation. Each of these actually has different feature parity components as well as implications on maintenance. For most customers who have an existing implementation, or if they have any applications, they'll most likely be working with a hybrid configuration. It's a fantastic offering. It offloads the responsibility for the messaging servers and the uptime maintenance of the messaging environment, as well as there's cost savings in both the licensing for the messaging-only users and the lack of need to have edge protection for the antivirus and anti-spam as IBM provides those services. So those are different pieces. Along with that, there's a change to those services for most customers unless they're using the IBM Protector services already. That doesn't have a particularly large following on the on-premises market. And with that change is a change of controls. There's some different granularity that's available. End users don't use interim junk mail type boxes. Things are either whitelisted, blacklisted, or they're just not allowed. So it's a bit of a simpler mechanism for the end users. Some customers absolutely love it. Some customers still prefer to use their own edge protection.
And how does SmartCloud compare to other cloud services out there?
SmartCloud overall is a very interesting offering, predominantly because it's a suite of offerings. It competes with a variety of different services from different companies, from the major classic IT vendors such as Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Salesforce. Most people are familiar with those offerings to some degree, as well as offerings from Dropbox, Box.net. It actually goes after a breadth of different services, and it does this by integrating in everything from mail, which is largely a commodity orientation, to the file-centric capabilities and the ability to have file syncing, and it has mobile capabilities that are really continually growing. It has meetings capabilities. Those are actually really interesting because they compete with the entire meetings industry, things such as WebEx and GoToMeeting, and those services are quite good. The services, from an integrated standpoint, tend to work really well where people are able to leverage them. I would be remiss if I didn't mention IBM Connections and the community-oriented approach. Most customers who use SmartCloud use it for the community-oriented capability. And this actually is an area where IBM has a very unique licensing model in that they allow for free guest users. The guest users are those people who are not under the customer's direct control. So it would be external partners, customers, clients of theirs, and those people are able to join on a guest basis for free. It's not a limited time trial. These are actually real accounts, and IBM manages them, and they work really well so that you can get communities of practice and you can get people actually interacting across your company with your organization as well as across organizations in a way that allows you to expand it out without incurring significant costs. So we're seeing enormous growth in this area from both a for-profit and I've also more recently been exploring nonprofits using these services in tremendously useful and productive ways.
And then my last question, one of the biggest concerns for moving to the cloud is security. So what tips can you give the listeners to help them develop a really solid cloud security policy?
Good question. Security is something that has a couple of different aspects. The biggest aspect of it is having trust in the provider, knowing that the provider has reasonable security measures. A lot of different cloud providers honestly do a good job here. And this is where you can look at their physical assets. Do they actually have locked doors? Are there servers in areas where there's redundancy? If a server goes down, do they have multiple ISPs? And so forth. IBM has done this in an exceptionally good way because they have multiple data centers and multiple instances of their entire environment. Their internal policies are extremely strong. The biggest risk with all cloud services is actually the ability for others and people with nefarious intent to use phishing types of attacks and social engineering to get people's real credentials. It's not as much with the vendor itself as it is the people who have legitimate access in getting their credentials. That's really where the biggest risk is. The secondary risk is understanding the data risk with information. IBM does allow customers to get their data out, and there are documented ways of doing that. With some vendors, getting data out is nearly impossible, or in a few cases, it's actually not possible because the customer no longer owns their data once it's actually uploaded. In IBM's case, they're very customer-focused on that, and customers do have the ability to get data. It's not necessarily the easiest process in the world. It's often not free to get out for customers directly. The vendor, in this case IBM, doesn't charge directly to get the data out, but it's not a particularly straightforward or easy process. It's not a matter of just, give me one file. The files are actually stored in encrypted format, so getting them does require a bit of work from someone who has knowledge in this. I've done some of these, and they're moderately complex, but the data can be retrieved, and there's a huge value in that.
Great. Those were my questions. Daniel, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me and the community. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated it, and look forward to talking with people again on the other calls as well.
Absolutely. And if you're listening to this podcast on socialbizug.org, then I will post links to both the webcasts I mentioned up front, just below the video player. If you're listening on your own, go to socialbizug.org to get more information on both the August 6th and August 27th webcasts. Both webcasts are free, but you'll want to pre-register so you can get all that confirmation email business out of the way. If you're listening to this after August 2013, check out socialbizug.org for the webcast replay videos. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at socialbizusergroup.org. Thanks for listening.